Almost on. Welcome to the Joyful Solopreneur with Mary Gaul and Kathy Basel. The Joyful Solopreneur is your go-to podcast for those who are seeking to infuse joy back into your businesses. Each episode is brimming with actionable advice and heartfelt insights, empowering you to shape your business on your terms. From honing your message to playful profit planning, prepare to engage with a supportive community that advocates for joy, creativity, and successful entrepreneurship. Mary, welcome our guest.
Yay, we're here.
So fun. Our first episode of our pop-up podcast.
Yes, welcome to episode 1, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with Kathy this morning and recording this information for you because our goal is to help you be a more joyful solopreneur, an entrepreneur, right? We want to have more joy in the world. We want people to have businesses that they enjoy, that bring them joy, and let them live the life that they want. So we have some great information for you over the next several episodes, and we are excited that you're here to join this journey with us.
Yay. And it's just funny, you and I are on such a similar mission about this joy. And truly what we would love for you to walk away with is remembering that we get to start with our why. So this whole first episode is essentially the joyful beginnings, which starts with why you got into doing what it is that you do from the first place. So Mary, why don't you share a little story about you and what you do?
Yeah. So I own two businesses my first business when I jumped in, I worked in the corporate world. I was never thought of being an entrepreneur and kind of was at this place in my career where I was like, am I going to go get another job? Or, what does that look like? And I had some friends encourage me to start my own business. And I was like, what would I even do? I have no idea. I had a background in marketing and communications and IT support and operations and executive leadership and all of those kind of things. So I could pull from a lot of areas, but I didn't know how to focus in on one thing. So I kind of just started asking the question, I wonder, right? And this business for starting a virtual assistant company 10 years ago started popping up in everywhere I was looking. It was just like in the most random places. And I was like, oh, I have all those skills. I think I can do that. So I jumped in, started the business, and quickly got to capacity with just myself, right? I had more clients than I had time, which is a good problem to have, but it was still a problem. I was like, this doesn't feel right, right? It's making me stressed out way more than I was in my full-time job. It's like, that's not what I wanted to start a business for. And so, I got into business to have this time freedom, right? And the stuff I get to enjoy. And I was just doing all these tasks for other people. And I was stuck and I didn't know how to get out of that. And so I found a peer advisor board. I started taking workshops and courses. I discovered my pinnacle gifts and really honed in on living that authentically. And then realized what I loved about what I used to do was that I got to be the leader. I got to be a coach. I got to set the plan out and then help get it implemented. And that's what I love to do. And when I was a virtual assistant, I didn't get that. I just got to do the implementation piece, right? And so I wasn't in alignment with who I was, and it wasn't bringing me joy. And so within the next year, shifted my business. I became a certified business coach. And that's where I get to spend all of my, or 95% of my time. I still own and operate the other business, but I have a team of people that does the implementation for us. So really finding that what does bring me joy, what are my natural gifts and talents was such a game changer for me. And it just has really inspired me to be able to do what I do now on the coaching side of things.
Yeah,
So
that's what I love hearing. I saw you sparked up when you talked about, I get to do what I love. It's like, I think that's one of the very first questions that we need to ask ourselves is just getting clear on what that is. We sometimes dive in thinking that we know what that is, but getting super clear. And I think I've done similar things. I think we all have. You start on a certain line. It's like, okay, I think I'm doing this. We've kind of figured it out. And then we start doing it. It's like, ooh, dialing in, it's like, ooh,
yeah.
this is not, the joy factor is starting to slip away here. So we get to continually kind of reiterate, if you will, but check in from time to time to ensure that we're always aligned with your gifts and your talents. Like you said, you're such a natural in helping people to see the big vision and create that action plan to so that they're productive and they're growing. And then that value of yours of joy and love and contribution just comes shining through. It's beautiful.
Yes, yes. So tell us a little bit about your story of finding joy in your business.
Yeah, so I've had a couple similar, and I think maybe all entrepreneurs kind of have this. We've got this creative spark in us, and we're looking to make a difference in the world. So I've been self-employed for 20 some odd years. And so I first had a meeting, an event company. I kind of even forgot about that. The last 7 years, though, I was doing transformational life coaching and energy healing. So that actually got sparked by a life incident. And again, I think this is something that sometimes the crash and burns in life can sometimes be that clarifying moment of like, this is the change I want to see in the world. And this is why I'm the one who's going to step up and do this. So mine was kind of sparked. My mom had a stroke and went into the medical world. She had lost the use of the left side of her body, essentially. This is someone who is vibrant, like the pinup girl of how to live agelessly alive. And we lived in Naples, and she had a great job, a great family, golf, tennis, hot man, just everything. And then she got the stroke. And I watched as her body was starting to decline and going to all the specialists in her medical world. Not always the best place to go if you want to become fully alive. And so it was, yeah, it was kind of torturous watching, supporting her and going to all the doctors, but watching as her body was declining, but knowing that it was truly her soul that was dying. And so when she passed away, that was my spark of like, I know in my heart of hearts that we are born for vitality. And so that was the next business that I got sparked into was to create what I called the Vitality Code. And it was helping women and mostly women to understand what is it that brings you fully alive, because I believe our bodies are this vessel that are here to transport us through the times and space of this fun life adventure. And if we're not aligned with who we are, if we haven't reconciled some of those inner beliefs about not feeling worthy or not feeling deserving or not being lovable, some of these core wounds, that mindset aspect is really what needs to be addressed before we can step out and be our fullest and greatest and most joyful self. And so it's interesting because that kind of ties into, how we become fully alive in our businesses. And then more recently, so this is a new shift for me when ChatGPT came out, and my background is actually in marketing. It's challenging sometimes to message what it is that you do, because sometimes you kind of do magic in a way, or sometimes you've gone into business, but you're not a marketer yourself. So it's so important to have other people around you to help articulate what that spark is and how it lands for them, what the people need. So when I saw my messaging, I dropped it into ChatGPT, and I saw how articulately it was able to specify a message that was on my soul. That was like another spark for me. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. I'm here to impact. Like, my driving desire is to truly help make the world a better place. And after, you can see my sequence here, the holistic healing and the change makers of the world, those are the ones I want to empower to get their voice out into the world in a bigger way. And I recognize that some of the biggest blocks are those ones we've got within the mindset of not feeling worthy, or it's not safe to be fully visible, or, just not recognizing some of these core foundations that when we put them in place, actually become the springboard for us, actually making business easier down the line when we take this extra time, get clear on exactly what we're talking about today.
Yes, yes, I know. The clarity is so important. And we think we might be clear on it, but unless you've really spent the time to do the work, then, it's easy to drift because you're watching all the stuff on social media. You attend all these webinars, you're on newsletters that give you all kinds of information. And it's hard to stay the course and keep anchored to who you are, because you're like, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. Oh, I want to do that. Oh, which is great. But there's lots of great content out there, just like we're providing great content today, right? That we hope will inspire people to take action. But you need that anchor point which in my world is a pinnacle gift, and in Kathy's world is your belief statement, right? So you can call it different things. There's not one way to come up with this concrete answer, right? But you do need to spend the time and the effort to figure out what that is for you, right? And then throw it in chat, and then have it help you articulate that, right? But it does come down to our why, and then to our natural state of what brings you joy. And as an entrepreneur, even in the corporate world, right? If you're in the corporate world and you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, there's so much that can distract us from our true being, and we lose sight of it, or maybe we've never taken the time to discover that in the first place. So I mentioned when I was talking earlier about the Pinnacle Gift course that I took, that was so game changing for me. And I just want to share with you all my Pinnacle Gift statement that I created through this course, because I use it as an anchor. I wrote this in 2015, so it's almost 10 years old. I just had my first business. I hadn't started the coaching business yet when I wrote this, but it is true to who I am. And I read it at least once a month. I have a pop-up on the day of my birthday on my calendar, so I read it once a month. I try to read it more frequently than that. I have it printed out. So if I start to feel distracted, or like I'm just drifting with whatever the flavor of the day or the month is, then I go back to that and read my Pinnacle Gift, and it's like, is this how I'm showing up? Because when I show up like this, I'm filled with joy, right? So this helps me anchor into showing up authentically, and then that brings me joy, right? So here is my Pinnacle Gift statement. So I am Mary Gaul. I'm a creative, trusted leader. I create community and increase the energy, joy, and well-being of those around me through nurturing a warm, genuine connection. With confidence, I use my strong intuition to see the big picture, and then easily design creative, innovative, and simple solutions outlining the right next steps. I bring the calm, clarity, and thoughtfulness of a trusted leader to encourage action, connection, and celebration, inspiring people to live bigger, achieve results, and have fun. So that's me. It still gives me goosebumps every time I read it.
I was just going to say,
10 years later.
I feel like you can just feel it expanding when you land on it. I love that.
Yes. And I've tweaked a few words here and there, but basically that's almost the exact word for word that I wrote 10 years ago. And like I said, I use it as my anchor to help me discover, when I feel like I'm drifting or trying too many things or not showing up authentically. I go back and read that, and it's like, okay, am I showing up? Do I have a capacity to be creative? Do I have the capacity to be a leader in some way, right? I use it to help me make decisions, because now I know, and looking back at the patterns of my life, right, I tend to step into a leadership role, right? If I join a group or something, whether it be the Swim Team Parents Association or a networking group or whatever it is, I am going to tend to be on the leadership role somehow, right? I know that about myself. So I use that as a way to evaluate a group before I join a group, right? So it's like, oh, I could join this great networking group, but I'm going to end up on the leadership because that's just who I am and how I show up, right? So is this something I can commit that level of time to, right? So it does help you make decisions. It helps you just be anchored to, okay, I'm not showing up. I don't have the ability to be creative in this situation, right? That's why I'm not feeling the joy here. And sometimes those things are okay. You may not feel the joy for a minute, but you're working to something that gets you more joy, right? So when we do the Pinnacle Gift workshop, it really is getting outside feedback from others. Like Kathy mentioned earlier, we have to see how others see us as well. And then, so we do a series of questionnaires that we give out to workers, coworkers, those kind of things. So ask the people that are around you, that you work with, that you used to work with, what do they think your talents are? What do they think your skills are? What could they rely on you for, right? And that'll help give you some additional insights into who you are and how you're showing up. So they saw you, if it's somebody that saw you at your best or at your worst, right? How did you show up in those areas? And then just do a lot of journaling. We do a lot of this. It's an 8-hour workshop where we focus really on you. And it's a really powerful thing when you come together and you kind of work through all of these pieces and get this pinnacle gift statement at the end of the day. So that's how I really discovered my pinnacle gift, was through this course. And like I said, it's really been an anchor for me in making business decisions, in, what am I going to pursue that brings me joy, that lets me show up authentically. So that's how I discovered my pinnacle gift. And I've seen it happen over and over with people that have come through the course that I've taught. Now that I get to teach that course, I've seen people really step into owning those values and those gifts, and it does transform their business, right? So I had one person who'd been in business for 25 years, maybe 20 years ish before she took the course. And she came and she took the course and she's like, I'm going to own this. These are my skills. This is how I've built this business. But I've always kind of just stayed in the background and just never really owned it. And she started owning it about 5 years ago. And she still to this day talks about how different her business feels to her, right? She has more joy in her business because she's owning those gifts. She's saying those gifts out loud. She's sharing those with her clients and customers. And it's just been a huge mental shift for her. Instead of something that she has to do every day, she gets to show up in joy every day when she does her work, right? In her authentic.
It's almost like the bigger question of like, why are we here on this planet? It's like, it's for us to be the most us, the youest you that you can be. Like Dr. Seuss says, there's no one who's youer than you. When we are aligned with who we naturally are, like you're founding your gifts in your statement, you can hear, that leader thing, and how compassion, all these values are woven right into the fabric, so that when you're doing that actively day in, day out in your business, it just naturally attracts. Because what a beautiful thing. You've created this beautiful picture and people want to be a part of that. I want to feel compassion. I want to feel seen. I want what I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So I know you do exercises around belief statements, right? So talk us
And so
through that.
just to kind of back up, I like to think of the concept of ikigai, which is a Japanese way of looking at that intersection. And you illustrated it perfectly. That first question of who you are, like what you love, get clear about that, spending this extra time to remember, re-engage with that, go play for a little while so that you remember what those things are that light you up. Then ask, what are you good at? Sometimes we're good at something, but it may not become that passion project for the business. And then what can you get paid for? I think sometimes people go into business and haven't taken the moment to see where that intersection is of where they can actually get paid for. And then when they're not getting paid enough for the value that they're bringing, then we can get kind of unexcited and actually resentful about your business because we're not getting paid to be us. What this is the outcome of this whole thing is like, what if you could get paid great money just for showing up and being you, right? And then
Yes.
basically, what does the world need is kind of that last element. So when you can take time and journal out on each of those and recognize where that intersection is, that's where the is. That's where that aliveness comes from. Something else that I think can help us inform ourselves, because it's hard for us to recognize sometimes the things that we're good at, and like you said, of getting input from other people. Sometimes just simple personality tests. I like 16 personalities. I'm a protagonist, so like you, I'm all about community and connection and upliftment and those kinds of things. It's uncanny when you read it back. It's like, yeah, of course, that's me, but you may not have recognized that for yourself. Or the human design. I'm a visionary and a generator. So like you were talking about being a leader, that just recognizing that about yourself. This is how I'm going to show up around this. But starting with some of those foundations about those things. I also like to do some future casting, I call it, when you kind of project yourself and see your business 3 years down the line. Who are you being then when you are in full stride and your business is flowing and you're helping those ideal clients, those clients that you're here to make, understanding what is that change that you're actually helping them to make? digging below the surface, like why is that important? So for me, just going back to kind of relate a little bit about my story of, saying my mom of helping people to understand vitality, like what brings us fully alive. It's like, why is that even important? So asking some of those elemental kind of questions about why is this vision of yours important, and blow up the vision so that is big and hairy and audacious, so that when you share this vision, it's not just like, oh yeah, I want to help a couple people. It's like, no, the change that I see necessary in the world, and to share my belief statement now that Mary was kind of alluding to, I what change believe is necessary in the world right now is there's a consciousness rising, and I'm about feminine empowerment. So I believe that the change makers of the world are the ones who are being called upon now to stand up, to be fully visible, and to bring our gifts fully to the world, but also to make the income that we're here to make. I think we need to flip that script. A lot of times women, solopreneurs, we go out there and think we're here to make this change, but we're not anchoring, holding, making that stand for ourselves and for the world, that this is the change I'm here to make. And, it's going to be, when we state it in a way that's become almost like the big vision, the mission, a movement, like other people want to be a part of that movement. It's like, oh, I'll have what she's having, kind of a thing. So what is that vision? I've got a funny story. I was at a women's networking many years ago, but this fellow came in, and his brother had just passed away. I think it was a stroke, but he got this inspiration to ride a bike across the United States. And I'm sitting there now. I'm a cyclist, and he had no experience in cycling. I don't think, in fact, he didn't even own a bike, but he decided this is the way he was going to do it. And he came in sharing with such passion and this vision. And I'm sitting there just watching as people were getting all excited about his mission too, because it was grounded in a why, because his brother had just passed away. And so people were offering him all this help. Oh, I've got someone who can hook you up with a bike. And people were saying, oh, I know people in these different destinations, and this person has a radio station. And they were throwing all these things at him, these opportunities, these connections that he could do it, because he came from that space that was so juicy,
Yeah.
zesty. It was contagious. And so you couldn't help but want to be part of whatever it was he was creating. So that's what I want to invite us each to consider for ourselves.
Yes. And that comes, we call it creating joy through clarity, right? So it really is, you have to do the work to create clarity. What is your vision? What is your why? And then how are you uh, um, going to help bring your gifts, your natural talents, how you show up authentically to that vision, right? So what skills, what talents do you bring? Or is it just the ability to share the vision with other people and let them help you, just like in Kathy's story, right? So this guy didn't know how he was going to do it. Sometimes we get stuck in the house, right? The Mike Dooley, the cursed house. So we get stuck in I have this vision, but I don't know how to do it, right? And so it's really, if the vision is strong enough and here's what my skills are, and I know how to apply my skills, but then I know I'm going to need other people, right? So we sometimes feel like, especially we're talking about the joyful solopreneur, right? We're out here all by ourselves sometimes, but that's not true. We have a team. We need a team of people, even if it's just somebody that supports you along the way with encouraging words, saying you can do it. But I think once we open up and say, here's what I want to do. Here's what I want to build. Here's the mission I'm on, right? Here's my vision for the world and how I can bring my gifts to the world, and being open to letting other people help us. I think that's a powerful key. And we can still be solopreneurs, on our tax forms or whatever. We don't have employees, right? but we do have those people that are supporting us. Maybe it's a virtual assistant, maybe it's a marketing person, right? Our bookkeepers. We have teams of people. So I don't want people to hear the name of the podcast, The Joyful Solopreneur, and think, oh, I have to keep doing it all by myself, because we certainly don't do it all by ourselves. We have our communities of support. We have our business support. We have our personal life support, right? Those friends and family and people that keep us going, our network of people that keep us going and are there to help us along the way. So we want to make sure you have that.
Yeah, it's almost like it takes a village, but at the end, and at the same time, just as you were saying, like, reconnecting with all these pieces that bring us our passion, like this is the vision that's going to get us through those hard days, because entrepreneurship is a tough road. It's not always, rosy. And so when we are grounded in this, when you've got that statement right here on the wall that you can go back and say, this is who I am, this is how I'm showing up, it's like, okay, today might be a little rotten, might be a little bumpy, and that's who I'm choosing to be day after day.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Okay, so just kind of in summary, as we wrap up this first episode here, we want to make sure that you take the time. Your challenge, your joyful challenge, is to go out and sit down. I love a good timer, right? So I have my timer right here at my desk. Grab a timer, put one on your phone, and spend some time really digging into what is your why? What are your natural gifts and talents? What have you been able to do that everybody's like, just assumes that you'll take care of it for them, all the way back to childhood, right? Go back and think about all those things that you've just naturally done. They don't feel like work to you, and they may not seem like something you can get paid for, right? We had this discussion in our book club last Friday, like, oh, my passion is reading books, but I can never make a business out of that. It's like, well, people do, so never say never, right? So if you really wanted to pursue that as a business, you could be a book reviewer. You could, read to, maybe be a narrator, do things on Audible, right? So there's all kinds of ways you can get paid to read books if that's really what you decided to do. So take those times. What brings you joy? What do you naturally do that you're good at? And make sure you start to journal that. And then you can take that journaling and throw it in ChatGPT, and it can help you create a statement for you, right? And then make sure you're going back and thinking about what are your beliefs about the world, right? Why do you think this is important to have this service or this product or whatever it is you're building out in the world? How is that going to change people's lives? How is it going to, bring you joy? If it brings you joy, then I believe joy is a ripple effect, right? So if it brings you joy and brings one other person joy, then that's going to continue to multiply. And then write down your values, right? There's all kinds of free values exercises. Kathy and I both have some that we use, so you can reach out to us about using those if you need help finding one. But there's lots of free values exercises. Take some personality tests. Take some of those that she mentioned, like human design, the DISC assessment, right, are great. The Strengths Finder one, and the 16 personalities. There's all kinds of those out there. Be careful not to take too many, because then you just it becomes noise, right? So take one or two to give you some ideas, and then really hone in on what those things are telling you. And then our ultimate challenge is write a statement for yourself, whether it's a pinnacle gift statement, a belief statement, a mission, a vision, whatever you want to call it. Put that on paper and check in with it. Don't just do it once. Don't just do the work and then read it once. Make sure you put it on your calendar so it pops up as an appointment to read that, and I put my actual pinnacle gift statement in the calendar content. So I pull up the calendar appointment and it's right there. So I just read it. It takes 30 seconds or less.
I've got an app that there's 3 different ways I want to show up in my love, my relationships, and my work. What energy am I bringing in every day? Right at the beginning, and that's tied to the actions that I'm going to take. What actions anchor me in that state of being of how I want to show up. So
nice, perfect. What's the name of the app that you use?
It's called Heroic, and it's kind of funny because you mentioned, like, how do you make money reading books? This is a fellow who started out with that exact question. So definitely check it out.
Yes, I have that app as well. So it's great, and great synopsis of all the books that you might ever want to read. Right? which I love, right? We all need those shortcuts in our lives. So that's our challenge to you. Anything you want to add for the joyful challenge to our listeners, Kathy?
We'd love to hear from you. This would be great to be a dialogue. So follow us on social media. We're primarily on LinkedIn, or you can just track us down. We'd love to hear from you. What is it that brings you joy, and how are you going to infuse that in your business?
Yes, fantastic. And stay tuned for episode 2 as we roll through our pop-up podcast, The Joyful Solopreneur. Our next episode is Messaging Mastery, crafting authentic messages and understanding your audience. Again, so you need to do the work to understand who you are and how you're showing up in the world, so that when you get to the messaging, you can really create clear, authentic messaging, right? So we're so excited. Hope you can join us for episode 2. Thank you so much for joining us here on episode 1. And any other last comments, Kathy?
Nope, just go be your joyful self.
Okay, great. Thank you for showing up. Have a great day. Thanks.